Welcome inside, everybody, to our latest edition of Knicks in 6. This might be my favorite one yet because we are talking about why Derrick Rose has elevated the Knicks, and Cam Smith, my partner in crime on this one. Let's do some fascia stretching.
Let's get to it, Rebecca. I mean,
Derrick Rose, because he will tell you this is the latest and greatest reason why athletes can extend their careers. And this is just me paying homage to how awesome he's been. So I will kick it off to you. Why has he elevated the Knicks? 6 reasons.
So my first reason, Rebecca, is his influence. Now, we know that Derrick Rose has been profiled since he was in high school, especially in those early YouTube days when the mixtapes were coming out and you would see Derrick in high school or playing AAU. And you have to remember that everybody is a sponge. So I know that Julius, Randle, Immanuel Quickley, Obi Toppin, all of the young guys on this Knicks team grew up watching the greatness of Derrick Rose. So when you have a guy that you've been watching since a kid and now he's your teammate, he's on your team and he's making you better, that's the influence that he's bringing to this Knicks roster. He's a guy that knows how to win, and he's also a guy that is just a cool person, right? I mean, like, who doesn't like D Rose? Like, you've never heard anybody speak bad about D Rose.
I'm going to piggyback off of that. Reason number 2, he is the first superstar to want to come to New York since the Carmelo Anthony era. And I think that is big. When you think about this summer and free agency, they have the lowest payroll in the league, number 30. Plus, they have 2 first-round picks. So the Knicks have a lot of playing to do with their cash this summer. They can make a lot of moves, and guys around the league are going to be saying, hey, I want to go play with Derrick. I want to go play with Julius Randle. And we're going to see an exciting summer for the Knicks.
Yeah, and it's something for Derrick, especially. He doesn't run away from the smoke. Like, he invites that. And if you're that type of person, then I want to be on your team. Like, I want to hoop with you because you're not afraid of any moments. And that brings me to my reason number 2 for Derrick is because he accepts his role, right? This is a guy that has been a star all his life, especially in the NBA. Going back to 2009, he was Rookie of the Year, won NBA MVP in 2011, was one of the best guards in the NBA. But we know over time, your skills start to decline just a little bit and that new crop of young talent comes in. So you're still trying to find your ways. And we've seen that over the years, right, Rebecca, of these former stars trying to adjust into new roles, and it really doesn't work out for them. So when the skies opened up and the heavens opened up and the sun shined on New York City in early February, when Derrick Rose came to the Knicks, everything changed, right? They went from a team that was definitely battling for a play-in spot for the playoffs in the East to now a bona fide top 6 team in the East that will make the playoffs. So Derrick is a guy that says, hey, I know I was that former NBA MVP, former All-Star, all of those things. But with this Knicks team, I'm going to do whatever Tibbs and my teammates need me to do.
Not only does he accept it, he embraces it. He loves the role. He told me recently, look, my job in Chicago is hard. I had to score at least 30 a night to win games. Here, I just look at the game and I do what it takes to win on that night. He makes the lives of Julius Randle and RJ Barrett so much easier, because if Julius Randle is getting the double team, or if it's an off shooting night for each one of those guys, one or the other, he finds the guy who's hot. He says, all right, I'll get Reggie going. Okay, I'll get Alec going. And for Julius and RJ to have that pressure taken off, and of course they're still spectacular and fantastic, that's just a really big deal if you want to make a run in the playoffs.
That brings me to my final reason why Derrick Rose has elevated this Knicks team is just because he's built for it, Rebecca. And this is New York City. Like, if you're not built for it, then you need to move somewhere else. And you have Chicago roots, I have Chicago roots, and we know that basketball is king in that city, and it's similar to New York in a lot of ways. But Derrick has been in the prime spot in the basketball world in Chicago and now in New York, and he's a guy that understands that when the pressure comes, that he's been here before. We talked about him being NBA MVP and All-Star and all of that stuff. He wants to make sure that he gives something to New York City and that the fans remember him in a positive light, shout out to Derrick Martell Rose. You know it's real when I mention the full government name. So that's how much I'm hype about Derrick Rose.
I know when you throw out the full name, you're serious. I love that. But if you are the MVP of the NBA, you are a winner. I do not care. End of story. No argument there. I mean, this guy is going to be in the Hall of Fame for sure. That brings me to my last point. Where do you want him to elevate the Knicks? Yeah, the regular season is great. You want him to elevate the Knicks in the playoffs. And that is what's coming up. And this is going to be such a huge piece that he brings playoff experience to this team. Because when you look at the Knicks starting five, they have 14 combined playoff games total between all five of them. And you look at a guy like Julius Randle, who is an all-star and terrific, but he has no playoff experience. So you take a look at the game against a very good team in the Clippers, and they won. And that game had playoff ramifications. They knew they needed that win, and Rose got it done. This is a guy who has 46 games of playoff experience. He's the MVP. We got to throw Taj Gibson in there too, because he's got 66 games of playoff experience as well. But when it comes to the pressure of the postseason, he is going to be able to explain to the guys how it's all going down, how physical it's going to be, how it's going to feel. And I am just pumped that we are going to see him elevate the Knicks the most down the stretch in the playoffs. So boom, that is another edition of Knicks in 6, and we better be doing this during the playoff.
You got to get your fascia stretching in.